The IRS just announced that tax refunds, unemployment benefits, should begin to be deposited into taxpayers' bank accounts. But the deposits still have not materialized for many, angering those who are counting on the funds. And folks, an estimated 10 million people will receive the unemployment insurance tax refunds as part of the American Rescue Plan.
Those who love them. The families of our service members and veterans, the caregivers who lift up our wounded, our ill and our injured, the survivors who grieve those we've lost. You may not wear a uniform, but military families are as critical to our national defense as a rudder is to a ship.
Now, a spokesperson for the IRS said only that the refunds are ongoing through the summer, and they did not confirm whether or not any payments have actually been made. The IRS is currently finishing up sending out the third round of stimulus payments, as well as processing normal tax returns from the 2019 and 2020 tax seasons, all with fewer workers than in previous years. It is also preparing to send out the first round of the Advanced Child Tax Credit in July.
Today, 2 Senate committees will consider and vote on 2 very different pieces of legislation. Over in the Russell Building, the Environment and Public Works Committee just approved a bipartisan bill led by Chairman Carper and Ranking Member Capito to invest in better roads and bridges for the American people.
And according to Yahoo Finance folks, AARP believes that Congress should reject any effort by lawmakers to slash funding for Social Security and Medicare in order to reduce the nation's ballooning budget deficit. In a news release, the group said, targeting Social Security and Medicare to pay down the national debt is the wrong approach and is strongly opposed by older Americans, regardless of party affiliation. And noted that 85% of individuals aged 50 or older strongly oppose slashing those benefits in order to help reduce the budget deficit. A group of conservative Republicans recently called for cutting $14 trillion in spending over the next decade in order to help offset the nation's unprecedented level of spending.
By the Social Security Organization. Why am I viewed as a strong supporter?
All that I said.
I have laid out how I will increase Social Security.
Well, that's good. I laid that out.
I have laid out how I'm going to make sure that it is in fact paid for.
Jake.
Go to joebiden.com. Look at my exchange with Paul Ryan on his desire to try to privatize and or cut Social Security.
Okay.
The Republican Study Committee, a conservative GOP House caucus, proposed a budget last week that was slashed $2.5 trillion from the current Medicare projections, $3.3 trillion from other healthcare programs, including Medicaid, and trimmed $3.5 trillion from other mandatory social safety programs. Discretionary spending would drop by $3.5 trillion under the proposed budget, and that is ridiculous, folks. AARP said, while older Americans care about the nation's long-term fiscal health, we also know that they want to make sure the promises made to all Americans regarding Social Security and Medicare are honored. Indeed, Social Security and Medicare had little to do with the recent run-up of debt and deficits in the wake of crisis. What do you think about this, everybody? What should our federal government do about the national debt? And do you believe that they should consider cutting down Social Security? Leave your thoughts on this, everybody, in the comments below. Now, the $1.9 trillion stimulus relief plan became law in March after passing with no Republican votes. Some Republican lawmakers have since prompted specific programs of the law to their constituents. Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee have already sent a letter to President Biden calling for a 4th check. The letter read, families and workers shouldn't have to worry about whether they have enough money to pay for essentials in the months ahead as the country continues to fight the crisis and recession. A 4th or 5th stimulus check could keep an additional 12 million people out of poverty. Everybody, I just hope our politicians in Congress send out the 4th stimulus check and help out the American people.
The idea that Bernie implies when he says things, speaking of negative ads, my Lord, Bernie, you're running ads saying I'm opposed to Social Security that PolitiFact says is a flat lie.
We can find agreement. So we've been closely engaged. The president himself called Senator Booker to get an update last Friday. I expect he'll continue to get updates over the coming days. And we have also been made it a priority to leave space for the negotiators to have these discussions.
Benefits, keeping people home. Well, yes, folks, it is. And so it is time to end the $300 extra each week that those unemployment recipients are receiving. If we can end that, we can get people back to work. In Iowa, our economy is open. We are open. We have been for a while. The problem is we have so many small businesses that simply can't get up and go because they don't have the employees. So again, heard from small business owners in Ottumwa, Iowa. One of the other stops was in Oskaloosa, Iowa, and the folks there were very, very interested in infrastructure. So their community leaders are applying for a grant, and they wanted to know about the infrastructure package.
Yes.
Senator Schumer, Senator McConnell says the exact opposite of you. He says that the
Really?
voters didn't give,
Surprise,
the
surprise,
voters didn't
surprise.
give a narrowly held Senate for Democrats to do these big, bold things. Just yesterday, he said the president's team and ought to sort of sober up on these big plans. What makes you think as you bring
Well,
this
let's
one
take
forward
the boldest thing we've done, the ARP, supported by 75% of the American people and 60% of Republicans. There's a huge dichotomy, as President Biden has repeatedly pointed out, between Republican voters and Republican senators and congressmen. 60% of Republicans support ARP, 0 Republicans in the House and Senate vote for it. It's because, unfortunately, they're under the thumb of Donald Trump, who wants nothing done. But that's not where Republicans really are. Yes.
Senator, you're scheduling a vote on S1 without the support of Joe Manchin. Is your bet that he comes around by the end? Is there an open
We've had
process?
2 very good, strong, and intense discussions in our caucus as recently as Wednesday, and we're continuing to have them. At those caucus lunches, it was made clear how important S1 is to the country, to our Democratic majority, and to individual senators, and those discussions are ongoing, and I have a lot of faith in them. Yes.
Senator, where are you then, as you're saying that you're open to working with Republicans on infrastructure? Where are you in the reconciliation process if that doesn't come together?
Look, as I've said, we try to work with Republicans where we can, but we need big, bold action. And reconciliation is certainly a serious consideration to get that big, bold action if we can't get it with Republicans.
Have you started that
Next.
ball rolling?
Did the filibuster of the January 6th bill today and any of the actions that surrounded this China competitiveness bill make you feel any more willing to or open to the idea of filibuster reform? I know this is going to be a big call considering...
Look, I think the events of the last few days probably made every member of our caucus realize that a lot of our Republican colleagues are not willing to work with us on a whole lot of issues, even issues where we try to be bipartisan. Nope, I'm trying to get everybody here.
Thank you, Senator. You mentioned that you talk pretty frequently to President Biden. Do you sense any impatience on his part or on his staff's part with Republican intransigence?
He's a very patient fellow, but